The practice of being here and now is probably the most common and known in the sphere of spiritual growth. And it's the element sine qua non. That is, without it, it's difficult to have any true value in any kind of techniques you use on yourself to make some progress. Because if you're not here, you're in your mind. That means or you're in the future or you're in the past. And in both cases, you lose contact with the only moment you have to be in reality. That is, here and now. So, as it's so important, why did I give such a provocative title in the video? I gave it because in most cases, what we do is that we lose that motivation to increase our capacity to be here and now, and there is a reason for this. And in this video, I want to explain why most of us do not apply this practice correctly in their spiritual path. So let's get rid of this confusion together right now. Living in the now usually involves two main practices. One is meditation, called usually mindfulness, and the other are basically reminders during the day to be present. Now, both practices are useful, of course, but many people think that only with these two practices, or mostly thanks to these two practices, you can reach awakening or a state of enlightenment. Now, I would like to discuss further with you if this is true and if there are any limitations to this or if any information is missing here. So let's start with meditation, mindfulness. Basically, you let go of any attachments to your thoughts you have. And while practicing this for a certain length of time, you access to a sort of a void or beingness inside of you, where you start feeling peace or bliss or any other, personal experiences. Now, the issue here is to achieve, those high goals we have in spirituality only by meditation or mindfulness is okay. I mean, I agree with that, but you need to meditate hours a day for long years. Now, who has the time to do that? I usually, talk to people, and as you have also, I imagine, and you see that most of us don't have more than 30 minutes a day to dedicate to meditation. Now, imagine with all the stress factors you have every day, and you have small kids, you have a 8+ hour job, and all the activities, and you quickly use the benefits of that meditation. Of course, meditating 30 minutes a day is better than not doing it, right? So it still is good, but hoping that with that practice you will get very far is an illusion. However, those who have this time available and feel a strong attraction or desire to meditate so much, that's the way to go, because many masters in the past have proven that with meditating many hours a day, you can reach these results of reaching or achieving your higher self, realizing yourself in your true I. So why does this sort of meditation bring you to these high level of consciousness, to reach your higher self? Let's imagine, and I'll use my hands a bit because to me at least it's easier to show something physical. I hope you appreciate this way too. Basically, when we start meditating, at the beginning at least, we have a lot of thoughts. And let's say these thoughts are moving very fast and you have hundreds and hundreds of them, right? Now, with practice, in the years meditating, you get the capacity to slow down all these thoughts. And when you slow down these thoughts, what happens is that we have constantly around us, or let's say in this case above us, we have a flow of energy, which is the one that brings us in contact with the present moment. And until we have all these thought process very strong and so many, we block the flow of this energy. But when it slows down, you can imagine this energy we receive, we accept, we can use this energy very much more. What happens is that this energy, which I call light, or you can call higher consciousness, enters inside of us and starts to push out into the surface our suppressed emotions. So it gives us the possibility to become aware of them, feel them, live them or relive them with love and acceptance, and so you can let them go and integrate them inside of you. The same thing happens also by having all this extra light inside of you, this higher vibration. You start seeing your thought patterns, your limiting beliefs, and you can get rid of them or you can change them. So you do this, basically you can do this until basically you get rid of all of that which blocks you, from reality. That's how you get to realize yourself with such meditation. But again, I think that 99% of the people in the world don't have the time or the tranquility to practice this. And if you go to see now the exercises where you remind yourself during the day to be present, and do that by reminding yourself to feel your body or specific parts of your body, or even like you are conscious and you listen to your breath, or you feel intensely whatever food you're eating and you enjoy that. All these feelings of a physical experience help you be here and now, because when you feel fully a physical experience, or you feel something or you think something, you can't do both at the same time, and that's why these reminders help you be in the present moment. Truth is that you can also be at the same time, you can feel and think at the same time, but that is part of a higher level of consciousness. The important thing here that happens, unfortunately, is that in time we usually start to forget to remind ourselves this. So the practice gets a bit lost, and that's a real pity, because sometimes we even feel like bad about this, or we feel incapable that we're not doing it right, but that's not the truth. I personally believe that the real reason why we don't remind ourselves so much anymore to be present, or why we struggle so much to meditate and we lose the motivation to practice the here and now, is not mainly because of stress or lack of time, even though there are very important factors and they will always stay important, unfortunately. But the real reason is that we do not understand how to correctly apply the practice of here and now in our daily lives and in our inner world. So to understand this better, we need to look closely on how our I, or ego, works inside of us. And let's start from the moment of birth. When we are born, usually most of us have an intact and cohesive conscience. So our self is whole. Unless we have lived an intrauterine trauma, we have a whole self. And that's from this being we usually call small kids, that they're so spontaneous, they're so pure, they're so joyful, because they have this wholeness still intact. Same as with animals, with pets. And so what happens? Why does this change? Because when, as small kids, as children, we inevitably live certain level of traumas, internal conflicts. And as we are totally dependent physically and emotionally to our parents or to those who have cared us and raised us, we are obliged to somehow, follow their command, if you can say. Because we are so dependent that whatever we feel negative about a situation or about them, even if we express it, most of the time we don't get what we want, or we get maybe a negative reaction from our parents, or we get punished. Whatever happens, basically we live the fear of dying. There's something of very fearful, when you're so dependent and you have no choice. So what you do as you have this ongoing suffering, this emotional suffering inside of you because of certain traumas, the only solution you have is to dissociate from it by repressing the emotions. The so-called dissociation is a natural process that creates separation in us. Why? Because in order to survive in our childhood, we had to, as I said before, suppress negative emotions because those emotions were creating conflicts in our relationship with our parents. In order to avoid these conflicts, for survival reasons, we dissociate with that emotion, we criticize it, we put the blame on the emotional part, so on our inner child instead of on our parents or on the life or whoever, on God. And that creates a separation because on one part we create the suppressed emotion, on the other we create a fragmented part, which is the one that has the goal or the objective to never make us feel that again or enter in that emotion again. So it creates a whole personality there, a whole series of thought processes. And this is done time and time again. So basically, dissociation forces our consciousness to divide in many pieces. So imagine now you have inside of yourself, like all of us, somebody more, somebody less, we have many mini or big traumas inside of us, so many fragmented selves, many of them. And each of them has his own, let's say, personality and thought processes. So how can we imagine to be here and now with all of these parts here connected to many suppressed emotions, negative ones, which are fueling this? How can we think to be present? And that's my main question. Why should I commit myself to being present by reminding myself every day if I have on the other part, this tons of fragmented selves that are working against me? I mean, that's why I said before there's no sense of feeling incapable or feeling maybe, when you feel guilty. You don't have to, because basically the reason was you didn't see very well or understand, nobody told you how it works inside of us. It's useful to meditate, it's useful to remind yourself, but it doesn't make a lot of long changes. The main point in understanding the dissociation process is when it happens, we are basically distancing ourselves from the present moment. Because when we dissociate, we put an emotion and we fix it somewhere in the past. So we are anchored to the past. And to that emotion, each emotion has a fragmented self, another one, which is a mental part, which is connected to the past and goes in the past or in the future mentally, so he avoids us to get into contact with that suffering. So this is why we lose contact with the here and now, and why it's so difficult to become whole again with this practice. So basically, if we believe that we can practice successfully being here and now without working on these fragmented parts, on these traumas, it's like believing that, or hoping that we can open light a fire in an open field when it's raining. I would say it's quite impossible. So basically, if we don't work on these suppressed emotions, on these fragmented selves, which fill our mind with, depression, anxiety, fear, envy, jealousy, whatever we have, which distance us all the time from being in the now, practicing whatever we do here with, reminding ourselves to be here now cannot be helpful. I mean, helps a bit, but at the end, it's almost useless. That's why I wrote the word useless in the video. It does help, but it doesn't get you really where you want to be in your life, or at least in your spiritual path. I'll give you another image so you can understand better. Imagine you have this big amount of negative thought processes which are engined. They are sourced by, they are empowered by all these suppressed negative emotions which have built it up inside of you for 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years. 50 years depends what's your age. How old are you? So imagine that on one part, which was, let's say, it's like an engine of a Ferrari with 700 horsepower, fueling all these fragmented parts, which are, taking you away from the now, here and now. And on the other part, you have here your will, which wants to work on your presence and on your spirituality. In the best case scenario here, you have like some connection with your higher self, which moves you and it gives you energy here to work on this part, being here and now. But guess who's going to win this battle on the long term? Yeah, here is where you lose motivation, because something is missing here, and that's what happens here also, which gets worse. Then we start here filling ourselves with positive thoughts, with positive beliefs, like the law of attraction teaches us. Law of attraction, where you start putting inside here, let's say 100 beliefs, positive beliefs a day. Let's say you do that as a practice. Still, do you think by doing that you can win against this Ferrari here of negative emotions? I doubt that. And that's why we have so much difficulty in manifesting what we want in certain areas of our life. So what is the most useful way to practice the here and now? If the non-presence is due to our emotional part, that is, our traumatized inner child, who has, let's say, the key to all of our suppressed emotions that are fueling, empowering our fragmented selves, that with their thoughts processes are distancing us from reality, from being here and now, being present to our inner child, to our emotion, is the solution, is the best practice that I believe in, and it gets better results. Because from the moment that you're present, you're giving your focus most time of your day, as much as you can, to your inner child, you will slowly take away that energy that is fueling the traumas, the fragmented cells, because being present gives a feeling to your child of loving him, of being there for him. So all of those processes that make feel the inner child unsafe start to lessen, to get less stronger. And you have more and more access to your suppressed emotions. And by doing this in time, you start healing more and more your relationship with your inner child, which in return releases more and more, these emotions, the memories of what happened in those times when you were a kid. And this is a big energy release for us. And in time, the release is so complete and so total that all of the energy, the negative emotions that before we're fueling all of these fragmented selves, don't have energy anymore. So guess what happens? The thought processes are a lot less stronger, and being present becomes a natural state without effort. Today, or in the moment we are now, we have to put in much effort because there's a strong resistance on the part of the fragmented cells that are still strong because of the suppressed emotions, and that's why we create stress here and so much resistance, because we push to be here and now, they push to be or in the future or in the past, and that's the great struggle that then demotivates us. So the key here is be present, yes. You can also meditate, remind yourself to be present, etc. But the main practice, according to me, in my experience, must be present to your emotions most of the time and become that better parent, that better inner parent to yourself, so your inner child can heal, let go of those traumas, and being here and now will become natural. Thanks for listening.